Yesterday game was horrendous, bro. I mean, it was bad. I mean, this one might be one for the ages, bro. I can't even lie. The referees just exposed their hand so bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the cause was. They didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what went down, bro. I mean, they got their issue off in a major way, bro. I mean, there was countless of times I could literally look at the screen and know that was a foul.
Hold on tight, because we recently discovered footage so crazy that it makes reality TV seem like a church service. What if I told you that the true MVP of the WNBA isn't a player, but a referee with a personal grudge and a whistle hotter than a jalapeno? You won't believe what this referee did. And yes, it's all on tape. Let's get right into it. Caitlin Clark wasn't just fouled. She was robbed. The receipts are messier than a toddler's spaghetti night.
So lads, today the referees gave the report on the situation, and it's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim. Like, it was a pretty grim overall, it was a pretty grim overall.
Watching the WNBA and seeing how things are run, seeing how things are done, and after you've seen what it looks like to get it right, and you come in and see something looking really wrong, you're going to call it out. It is what it is. You're going to be critical of players. If they do something shady or classless, you're going to call that out.
And the whistle blows once more, not for a foul or a travel, but apparently for being Caitlin Clark, because, let's face it, at this point, the WNBA referees have changed from being officials to chaotic gremlins with whistles, and the game is not basketball, but rather a poorly written soap opera, where the officials moonlight as cartoon villains somewhere between the missed calls, phantom fouls, and oops. I guess I missed that punch to the face.
I wanted to share with you guys an article that I found that honestly gives us so much insight into the WNBA referees, how they are hired, how much they make, and there's one section that really stood out to me, and they break down essentially why they are making the calls that they make, and they also talk about the influx of new fans flooding to the WNBA. They talk about Caitlin Clark a little bit. This article to me was really telling. It actually came out in January, but it was published by SB Nation, and it's entitled How WNBA Referees Are Scouted, Trained, and Held Accountable.
This isn't suspense. It's slow-motion sabotage, and the audience is tired and no longer puzzled. It's like watching a cooking show where the judges randomly unplug the oven mid-bake and blame the contestant. And Caitlin Clark is the contestant getting sabotaged, smiling politely as her 3-tier cake melts into floor soup. Corrupt referees aren't just ruining games. They're actively stealing the fun from a league that should be attracting more viewers hoping for competitive action rather than referee-led improv theater.
You would think with what they say coming into the season, Kathy made it her business to let them know that, referees is going to be getting assessed for this next season to make sure they're making the right, proper calls. Man, at this point, we need NBA refs all the time, bro. I don't want these YMCA, junior league, high school ass referees, bro. We need real life refs, because as of right now, they're costing the Indiana Fever major games that they definitely need to win.
Let's be honest. This is the existential exhaustion that only arises when you realize that you could drop 60 points and someone would still call a charge because you blinked too hard. Caitlin appears exhausted, and she is carrying a franchise, a league, and half of women's basketball fandom on her back. And the referees are out here making sure her shoelaces are tied together during every possession.
You remember how last year started? You remember the lopsided officiating that we got last year? The All-Star break comes around, the Olympic break rolls around, and then what did we hear from Lynn Dunn? Lynn Dunn goes on the Dan Dockage show, and she calls out the officiating. She calls out the referee. She calls out the WNBA. The lopsidedness that is being shown not in favor of the Indiana Fever. The clear biases when it comes to foul calls. The clear biases when it comes to not calling foul calls. Last year, it took us halfway.
305042. She is obviously depressed. Can you imagine being a top-tier employee who shows up every night to perform miracles only to discover that your biggest rival isn't even wearing the opposing team's jersey? Instead, it's the zebras with whistles, who somehow manage to ignore real assaults while flagging her for simple movement as though she's breaking some obscure NBA anti-glow-up rule. The way she's being treated isn't just incorrect, it's cartoonishly incorrect. Caitlin unintentionally entered a world where logic doesn't exist, and Coach Stephanie White didn't just lose her cool. Instead, she donated it to science. She appeared to be auditioning for a Whose Line Is It Anyway reboot, with every prompt responding to yet another offensively poor call. The woman was pacing, screaming, and getting more and more irate like a human thermometer of injustice. There was less coaching and more live demonstration of what gaslighting looked like in real time. The officials were acting like it was jazz night at the officiating club, freestyling their own rules without even trying to be fair.
Things a little bit holistically. I think Caitlin Clark is a really hard player to officiate, much like Diana Taurasi was throughout the course of her career, for a couple of reasons. Caitlin Clark regularly gets picked up in the full court. She also gets blitzed more over the course of her career than any player in WNBA history or in that period of time. And she also creates some contact herself on the offensive end of the floor. She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA, and all of them said
it cannot be expressed in any other way. Caitlin Clark is being treated as though she committed a crime against basketball when all she did was make it popular once more. The WNBA wanted visibility. So great, congrats, you got it. Now, the referees are squinting into the spotlight like vampires caught in the sun, panicking under the weight of actual attention. They didn't expect fans, replays, or anyone to start asking questions, and Twitter has slow-motion breakdowns of every flop-flop denial and logic D defying the whistle, and somehow it keeps getting worse. Caitlin goes for a fast break, and then she makes a clean steal whoops violation, breathing too aggressively in the key technical foul, while the opposing team is reenacting a UFC promo and receiving nothing but high fives. It seems as though the referees became perplexed and believed that the WNBA was a book of choose-your-own-adventure, where Caitlin consistently ends up in detention regardless of which page you turn. It's not just about bad calls. It's also about the psychological warfare of it all, with the rookie girl playing with the poise of an experienced player and the target on her back the size of Iowa.
By sharing that the officiating in the WNBA became as hot button of an issue as any. Heated debates surrounding the league's physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls. Now, they also brought up Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. We actually made a whole video about that as well because there were some suspect calls at the end of that game, and a lot of people felt like the WNBA Finals were actually...
Coach White's sideline performances are becoming more legendary than the games themselves. If reason came with red-faced yelling and clipboard throwing intensity, you could almost hear her inner monologue screaming, "Are you serious?" every 2 minutes. It's amazing that she hasn't been mic'd up and given her own post-game therapy show, and it's hard to blame her. Instead of celebrating her, we're watching slow-motion clips of her getting blindsided while the referees give their best impression of a statue. It's absurd, as if we live in a parody universe where mediocrity gets a standing ovation and talent is punished.
It took us 4 games for Stephanie White to say, "I've had enough." It's taken 4 games for Stephanie White to say, "You know what? I've had absolute enough. Game 1, okay. Game 2, okay. Game 3, all right. But today was the last straw when it came for Stephanie White. The New York Liberty get to the free throw line 32 times. The Indiana Fever this season have a discrepancy minus 31 when it comes to free throws. That doesn't seem right.
Because that's how it feels. Fans are noticing that the stands are louder, the alcohol is longer, and the internet is exploding with receipts. If anything, the game appears to have been rigged by a group of inebriated interns who believe that consistency is optional. If that sounds harsh, that's good because it should be. This isn't just about Caitlin. It's about what happens when you bring real star power into a system that isn't designed to handle it. Referees are clinging to their power like it's the last piece of pizza, blowing calls with the assurance of people who have never had their decisions reviewed in high definition by 5 million viewers. These referees weren't just bad, they were Olympic-level bad. For example, did you borrow your rule book from a coloring book? Caitlin's offense is playing too well, and their response makes it harder for her. If nothing changes soon, the final act won't end in applause. Instead, the audience will leave wondering why they ever trusted the script. And just when you thought the refereeing could get any more crazy, they turn the circus dial straight up 11.